Welcome back to Race Report, everyone. We have just finished our first ever F1 race in Qatar, and for many of these drivers, their first race in Qatar as well. Only Perez and Mazepin have ever raced at this track before, and that was in their junior careers. So how did we get on? Let's get stuck straight in. Heading into the race, Verstappen had a 14-point lead in the Drivers' Championship, while Mercedes had an 11-point lead in the Constructors' Championship. But for what felt like the first time in ages, we did not have any engine penalties coming into this race. We didn't see anybody drop into the back of the grid or anything like that this time out. Qualifying was very interesting. We saw very strong performance from both AlphaTauri and Alpine, which is not super regular. We also saw a lot of different teams using different sets of tyres and strategies. That's presumably because we've never been at this track before, so we don't quite know what works and what doesn't work. It was very interesting to see the different strategies. As a result of this, we actually had some interesting results as well. For instance, in Q2, we had Ricciardo, Leclerc and Perez all go out in Q2. Just one of them going out would have been a shock, but all three of them? Wow. In Q3, we had a very confusing end to it. Gasly managed to pick up a puncture and was going slow through Sector 3. Obviously, he's trying to stay off to the side of the track, trying to let people past, all that biz. But it was the way the marshals reacted. I don't know if it was the marshals or the FIA or whoever was dealing with it was reacting, but it was like single yellow flag, double yellow flag, green flag. It was very, very confusing. Not just for us here at home, but also for the drivers as well. And that was reflected in the fact that Verstappen and Bottas both got caught up. So qualifying would end with Hamilton taking a supreme pole lap, I mean like top tier pole lap, to come in first, Verstappen second and Bottas third. But what we didn't know until the morning of the race is that Verstappen was given a 5-place grid penalty for not slowing under double yellow flags, and Bottas was given a 3-place penalty for not slowing under a single yellow flag. It was very confusing, very messy. Obviously, if they did do that through those flags, they do have to be given those penalties, but the way those flags were shown and the time that they were shown and why at one section it was 1 flag and at another section it was 2 flags, all very confusing, and I don't think we really got a good answer there. But anyway, that meant going into the race, our grid was Hamilton on pole. He set his pole lap way before Gasly picked up his puncture. Then Gasly himself in second, so that actually helped him, that puncture, funnily enough. And then Alonso in third. Verstappen, the main title rival for Hamilton, was back in 7th. The start of the race was a good one. Verstappen managed to get away really well and pick up 3 places to P4 almost instantly. First corner, he's up to P4. Alonso managed to take Gasly for P2. Brilliant start from him. But Bottas was the man who lost out the most, dropping down 5 places to P11 on the opening lap. Hamilton took off well and shot off like a rocket. He built a strong lead, I think it was 3 or 4 seconds within the first couple of laps. I mean, as soon as the lights went out, he was off, no catching him. Verstappen did continue his good form in the early part of the race. He was up to 2nd place by lap 5. Just showing the raw pace and ability he has there, which was really good to see. Very entertaining for us, of course. Perez was also making good moves in the midfield. Obviously, he went out in Q2, so he started quite a way down, but he was making good overtakes and moving through the field. Again, very entertaining for us to watch that. The same cannot be said for Bottas, who of course dropped down to 11th on the opening lap, but he was not moving forward, and it took Toto Wolff to come onto the radio and be like, "Oi, go get him." The first set of pit stops wasn't very uniform. We did see the first runner, Tsunoda, come in on lap 10, but that didn't really trigger a chain reaction. It was more like teams had their lap that they wanted to pit on and they waited till that lap. There wasn't a lot of conformity. There wasn't even a lot of conformity between the tyres. Some of the longest running guys were actually on the softer tyres, like Norris, who started on the soft tyre. He went longer than some of the guys running the medium tyres, so it was very interesting to see that again. As we were moving out of the first phase of the race, we started to see some really good moves, continuing from Perez coming up the field. Norris, he was actually toward the top end of the field, and Ricciardo again coming from that back. And then that's when Bottas really started to come alive as well. After Toto gave him that, hurry up, that let's get moving command, he managed to get up to 6th by lap 17, which is brilliant. It was really good to see. And on lap 18 is when Verstappen surprisingly pitted. I don't think anybody expected him to come in that early. He was on the medium tyres, so he could have gone a lot longer. He came in early, switched from medium to hard tyres, and of course the very next lap Hamilton comes in, does the same, just to cover off Verstappen. And actually at that time, both of them stayed 1 and 2 because they were so far clear of Alonso and P3 that even by lap 18, they had a pit stop in hand. It was crazy. One curious move that Red Bull did make though, and this comes up a few times in this race, is that they also pitted Perez at the same time. They did the same strategy with Perez as they did with Verstappen. However, Verstappen was a whole pit stop clear. He dropped into no traffic, he came out exactly where he wanted to be, but that was not the case with Perez. Perez, every time they pitted him, dropped him back into tons of traffic, which he had to fight through every single time. Of course, very entertaining for us because Perez was very good at overtaking those cars, but must have been very frustrating for him. Seeing this strategy from Red Bull, Mercedes decide to do the opposite and they leave Bottas out to go long on his medium tyres. So he gets up to 3rd, a result of staying out long. But unfortunately that does come back to bite them, as on lap 34 Bottas picks up a puncture after going over the curbs. He'd done such a great job of overtaking cars, using the strategy to work for him all the way up to 3rd, and he would have been legitimately fighting for 3rd if he'd pitted. But unfortunately that puncture dropped him down to 14th and sent a big warning through the whole field about tyre durability. Of course we saw it with Gasly in qualifying, we've now seen it with Bottas. If you run 1 or 2 laps over what Pirelli recommend and go over a curb, then you could have a tyre failure. It's a little bit scary. That was kind of the only super exciting moment during that mid-race stint. Hamilton was 10 seconds ahead of Verstappen and he was 50 seconds ahead of Perez. So it's just kind of like everybody settles into their position, waits for the second stop window. That second stop window came for Verstappen on lap 42, and same for Perez, again dropping him into more traffic. I think that was one thing that Red Bull can be criticised for in this race, is their management of Perez. Verstappen, they did very well with. Perez, they kept dropping him back into traffic. I'm not sure what the plan there was. Of course, Hamilton does the same in the very next lap, comes in, picks up the same set of tyres as them, just holding that position, holding that strategy. As we enter into the latter stages of the race, Alonso is the man currently holding 3rd place. He is doing a one-stop strategy, so of course the team are very worried about his tyres. And Perez, who got dropped back into traffic, is charging from 7th place to try and get that 3rd back. There was a nice moment over the radio where Alonso radioed and said, "Can Esteban hold Perez off like a lion?" You know, calling back to when Alonso did the same for Ocon back in Hungary where he held off Hamilton. It would have been a very romantic moment if that's what had happened. Unfortunately, Perez was just too fast for Ocon. He did put up a little bit of a fight, but certainly not the same level that Alonso managed earlier in the season. But as that charge is going on is when we started to see things get a little bit dicey for the one-stoppers. Norris picked up a puncture from 4th place. He dropped down to 11th in the end for that. And then we saw Williams, with the worst luck imaginable, pick up back-to-back punctures. Russell picked up one, and then Latifi picked up another within 1 lap of each other. Latifi actually couldn't recover his car. Russell and Norris managed to get back to the pits, managed to strap on new tyres and go again. Latifi actually had to park it at the side of the road. Latifi doing that actually resulted in a virtual safety car with 2 laps to go in the race, which I think would have actually helped the one-stoppers that are out there. Like, looking at Alonso, he must be sweating buckets on his one-stop strategy. But then this virtual safety car comes out, stops Perez from chasing him down, stops him from having to run out onto the curbs, and we get going again with only 1 lap to go. So it's very manageable from there, I think. And Hamilton comes home to win in very dominant fashion. The first race in Qatar, Hamilton is the winner. Verstappen comes home in 2nd. And he also takes home the fastest lap, which I've been saying all season is going to be incredibly important. And it's turning out that way, so I'm very glad about that actually. And Fernando Alonso finishes in 3rd, his first podium since 2014. What a moment for him. Actually, it was an overall great day for Alpine. They took home 3rd with Alonso and 5th with Ocon, which has got to be their best result in ages, right? In the Drivers' Championship, Hamilton is now only 8 points behind Verstappen. If he wins and takes the fastest lap in the next race with Verstappen in 2nd again, they'll be level on points going into the final race. How insane would that be? Oh, I can't wait. Red Bull did make a dent in the Mercedes lead in the Constructors' race. It's down to 5 points now, so Mercedes lead Red Bull by 5 points. My driver of the day, there was a few good races up and down the field. Hamilton smashed it. Verstappen did everything he kind of could of. Perez was very entertaining, and it was only really strategy that screwed him up there. But it has to go to Fernando Alonso, right? They had a surprisingly good qualifying, and then his race was just so composed and confident, and everything just worked for him. So yeah, absolutely, Fernando Alonso, my driver of the day. What did you guys think of the race? Are you looking forward to coming back to Qatar in the future? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching that video. I really do appreciate the support. If you want to see more from me, I'm going to put a couple of extra videos on the left-hand side of the screen here for you. Just go ahead and click on one of those. On the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to put a subscribe button. If you want to support me and support the channel, I very much appreciate it. Thank you.